The purpose of this video is to explain to you the process for taking the Microsoft Office Specialist exam with Certiport. And this is the example that is provided by Certiport. And this example, this particular example, they used Microsoft Excel as the exam supposedly you're going to be taking, but this would apply to all of the certification exams for Microsoft Office, excluding the Microsoft Outlook exam. Now, first of all, I want you to understand that if you are taking your exam on a computer that is installed with Microsoft Office 2019/365, this is what your exam will look like. Even if you are taking the exam covering the 2016 objectives, you can take the exam on a computer that has 2019, and the exam appearance, the interface, will be based upon the version of Microsoft Office that is installed on your computer. So in this example that we're using here, they are using Microsoft Office 2019 as the program installed on the computer. All right, so first of all, down here at the bottom, well, first of all, the project file is going to be at the top of the page, whether it be Excel, Word, or PowerPoint. It's going to be up here at the top of the page. The number 2 item right here is the split bar, which just shows you, helps you to easily distinguish between the exam panel, which is down here, and the project file. Now, on the exam, you're going to have between 5 and 8 projects, and it depends upon which exam you're taking. For each project, you will be asked to perform 1 to 7 tasks. I will tell you that expert level exams have fewer tasks because they are harder. The exam panel displays the tasks that you must perform, and you need to look at how the text is formatted to know exactly what you need to do. File names, folder names, or setting names are typed or into the exam panel just like anything else is. If you need to look for text that is already existing inside of the project file, maybe you are going to format that text, or you need to find that text because you're going to format something near it, that is going to be inside of quotation marks. And if you see text that is underlined and inside of quotation marks, that is text that you are going to have to add to the document. So they tell you here that you can click the underlined text to copy it to the clipboard, and then you can paste it. That's actually a little bit different than what previous version of the exam allow you to do. Now, you can also mark each task to indicate its status. You could either mark something as for review, as you see here, mark complete, or mark for feedback. The only 2 that I've ever used are mark complete or mark for review. If you're pretty sure that you've done something correct, you can click mark complete. You'll have a green flag displayed next to this, up on this task, or actually it's a green check mark, as you see right here, if you can see that. And then if it is marked for review, it's going to have a red flag next to it, which you can see it right here. And then here they've got an example where they marked something for feedback. And again, I have not found any personal use for that in the past. And I don't know if that's something that has been updated with this version of the exam. When you go to a new task or project, the exam engine saves your changes, but it never hurts to save, as you should be used to doing. After you complete the task for a project, you're going to submit the project, and that will automatically launch the next project. And once you click the final project and submit it, the exam summary will open automatically. And then the exam summary will look like this. It'll show you a list of all of the exams that you have, or all of the tasks that you have completed. And it's going to show you how you have flagged them, and anything that you have marked for review, you can click on it and it'll take you straight back to that task so you can spend more time on it. Now, by the way, I did not previously mention the time. You get 50 minutes on these exams, counting down from 50. My personal advice to you is to not spend more than about 45 seconds on something that you just cannot figure out. Do not be afraid to mark something for review and come back to it later. In my experience, very often, the first or second task that they ask you to complete is something that you don't do on a regular basis, and you tend to freeze up mentally, and it sort of destroys your confidence going forward with the rest of the exam. So again, my recommendation is do not be afraid to mark something for review and come back to it. You will get an average of about 90 seconds total per task, and not all of the tasks will take 90 seconds to complete. So do use your time wisely. I actually want to scroll back up here and look at more of this, because this is what I'm used to doing. Here's the Submit Project button we talked about earlier. When you are done with a project, click this. It'll launch you to the next project. Restart project. Be very careful about using this. If you were to click on this, it erases everything for that entire project, and you do not get that time back. Again, keep an eye on your timer. And of course, here is your project number. And it'll show you which project you're on, 1 of 7, 2 or 7. You certainly don't want to be on project 3 and only have 10 minutes left unless you're already reviewing. And the exam summary button, you could click this when it's available to you, and it'll take you to the exam summary that I showed you down here. Okay. Right here is the button. Minimizes the exam panel to provide more space for the project file. That's never a bad idea. And if you click that, it will, if you click this button right here, let me go up and show you this. This reduces, basically it minimizes the exam panel, and then this button right here will give you more space to see the entire project file in the window. And then you've got these arrow buttons that will take you to the next task or the previous task. You could also, here you've got these buttons, the arrows. You've also got these buttons that you can click that will take you straight there. So it's just a matter of preference. Do you want to go back one at a time, or do you want to go directly to a task? You would use these two buttons to click on it. Here you have a settings menu in which you can access a calculator, which I'm going to be honest with you, it is new, especially if you are doing an Excel activity and you want to be able to check your work. Maybe you don't trust the ability of Excel. There is a help file, and there are commands for changing the magnification of the exam panel underneath this. Again, those are underneath the settings menu. And then the last thing that I want to point out to you that I don't see here anywhere that I think is very important to understand for this exam, if you look up here in the exam and the project file, whether you're using Excel, Word, PowerPoint, or whatever, you have this option up here. It says, tell me what you want to do. That is not disabled. You can use that during the exam. Okay, it is not disabled. So you could put in some keywords. So for example, if you wanted to change the page layout and you didn't know how to change the page layout, you could type in page layout, or specifically you could type in margins. And if your keyword that you type in is good enough, it will take you straight to that command. Now, you probably don't have time to use that for all of the tasks on the exam, but it is there in case you do need it. The help menu itself that you see right here next to it, that is typically disabled. So you would not be able to use that during the exam, but you would be able to use this during the exam. Some other tips for taking this exam that I don't see on here, here's some exam tips. They tell you to accept all default settings, so don't change anything unless they specifically tell you to change it. They also tell you that you can use any valid method to complete any task. So if they tell you to bold text, it doesn't matter if you click the bold button or if you use the keyboard shortcut of Control B. Here, this is something that's new, that's a time saver. If you have to enter text, you can click it to copy it to the clipboard, and then you can paste it into the file or application. That saves you time. They tell you if you perform a task by using the dialog box, make sure you close the dialog box to save the settings, and close any open dialog boxes before submitting a project. Now again, they tell you here that these are disabled, and as I just indicated to you, help is disabled. However, tell me what you want to do is not disabled. Also disabled are share, new, open, encrypt with password. Nothing they ask you to do will involve clicking those buttons. So the task that happens that a lot of students get on their exam is when you have to insert something from another file into the document that you have open. That does not mean open another file and copy and paste, although in reality that's probably how most of us would do it. But in class you learned a method to insert text from other files. That is the method you have to use. And as I look at this, here are some exam tips specifically for the exam you may be taking. I'm not going to go over all that. You are certainly welcome to pause this video to read these in any more detail. Well, that is it for this tutorial. Just wanted to make sure that I covered this with you because you may not have the time to do it right before you take the exam. Once you have viewed this video, if you have any further questions, please feel free to ask.